Hi, and welcome to Miss Lee Reads. It's me, Mrs. Lee, and I am reading. Today we're on chapter 18. Oh, and I'm reading Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. I haven't picked up this book all this week. I feel a little embarrassed. Um, Tuesday was a wash of a day, but yesterday I ended up having to clean up my schoolroom, and I just kind of was just so tired. But here we go. I'm going to read a lot today. A minute later, they were out in the open, standing on the very top of the peach, near the stem, blinking their eyes in the strong sunlight and peering nervously around. What happened? Why are we? But this is impossible. Unbelievable. Terrible. I told you we were bobbing up and down, the ladybug said. We're in the middle of the sea, cried James. And they indeed were. A strong current and a high wind had carried the peach so quickly away from the shore that already the land was out of sight. All around them lay the vast black ocean, deep and hungry. Little waves were bibbling against the sides of the peach. But how did it happen? They cried. Where are the fields? Where are the woods? Where is England? Nobody, not even James, could understand how in the world a thing like this could have come about. Ladies and gentlemen, the old green grasshopper said, trying very hard to keep the fear and disappointment out of his voice, I am afraid that we find ourselves in a rather awkward situation. Awkward, cried the earthworm. My dear old grasshopper, we are finished. Every one of us is about to perish. I may be blind, you know, but that much I can see quite clearly. Off with my boots, shouted the centipede. I cannot swim with my boots on. I can't swim at all, cried the ladybug. Nor can I, wailed the glowworm. Nor I, said Miss Spider. None of us three girls can swim a single stroke. But you won't have to swim, said James calmly. We are floating beautifully, and sooner or later a ship is bound to come along and pick us up. They all stared at him in amazement. Are you quite sure that we are not sinking? The ladybug asked. Of course I'm sure, answered James. Go and look for yourselves. They all ran over to the side of the peach and peered down at the water below. The boy is quite right, the old green grasshopper said. We are floating beautifully. Now we must all sit down and keep perfectly calm. Everything will be all right. What absolute nonsense, cried the earthworm. Nothing is ever all right in the end, and well, you know it. Poor earthworm, the ladybug said, whispering in James' ear. He loves to make everything into a disaster. He hates to be happy. He is only happy when he is gloomy. Now, isn't that odd? But then I suppose just being an earthworm is enough to make a person pretty gloomy. Don't you agree? If the peach is not going to sink, the earthworm was saying, and if we are not going to be drowned, then every one of us is going to starve to death instead. Do you realize that we haven't had a thing to eat since yesterday morning? By golly, he's right, cried the centipede. For once, Earthworm was right. Of course I'm right, the earthworm said, and we're not likely to find anything around here either. We shall get thinner and thinner and thirstier, and we shall all die a slow and grisly death from starvation. I'm dying already. I'm slowly shriveling up for want of food. Personally, I would rather drown. But good heavens, you must be blind, said James. You know very well I'm blind, snapped the earthworm. There's no need to rub it in. Bing. I didn't mean that, said James quickly. I'm sorry, but can't you see that? See, shouted the poor earthworm. How can I see if I'm blind? James took a deep breath, deep, slow breath. Can't you realize, he said patiently, that we have enough food here to last us for weeks and weeks? Where? They said. Where? Why, the peach, of course. Our whole ship is made of food. Jumping Jehoshaphat, they cried. We never thought of that. My dear old James, my dear James, said the old green grasshopper, laying a front leg affectionately on James' shoulder. I don't know what we'd do without you. You are so clever. Ladies and gentlemen, we are saved again. We are most certainly not, said the earthworm. You must be crazy. You can't eat this ship. It's the only thing that is keeping us up.
We shall starve if we don't, said the centipede.
And we shall drown if we do, cried the earthworm.
Oh dear, said the old green grasshopper. Now we're worse off than before.
Couldn't we just eat a little bit? Asked Miss Spider. I'm so dreadfully hungry.
You can eat all you want, James answered. It would take us weeks and weeks to make any sort of a dent in this enormous peach. Surely you can see that. Good heavens, he's right again, cried the old green grasshopper, clapping his hands. It would take weeks and weeks of it. Of course it would. But let's not go making a lot of holes all over the duck. I think we'd be better simply scoop it out of that tunnel over there, the one that we've just come up by. An excellent idea, said the ladybug. What are you looking so worried about, earthworm? The centipede asked. What's the problem?
The problem is, the earthworm said, the problem is that there is no problem.
Everyone burst out laughing. Cheer up, earthworm, they said. Come and eat. And they all went over to the tunnel entrance and began scooping out great chunks of juicy golden colored peach flesh. Oh, marvelous, said the centipede, stuffing it into his mouth.
And there's a picture of them on top of the peach. Bing.
Delicious, said the old green grasshopper. Just fabulous, said the glowworm. Oh, my, said the ladybug primly. What a heavenly taste. She looked up at James, and she smiled, and James smiled back at her. They sat down on the deck together, both of them chewing away happily. You know, James, the ladybug said, up until this moment, I have never in my life tasted anything except those tiny little green flies that live on rose bushes. They have a perfectly delightful flavor, but this peach is even better.
Isn't it glorious? Miss Spider said, coming over to join them. Personally, I had always thought that a big, juicy, caught in the web bluebottle was the finest dinner in the world until I tasted this.
What a flavor, the centipede cried. It's terrific. There's nothing like it. There's never been. And I shouldn't know, because I personally have tasted all the finest foods in the world. Whereupon the centipede, with his mouth full of peach and with juice running down all of his chin, suddenly burst into song. Let me show you his picture, and then I'll sing his song. Right. I've eaten many strange and scrumptious dishes in my time, like jelly gnats and dandybrats and earwigs cooked in slime. And mice with rice are really nice when roasted in their prime, but don't forget to sprinkle them with just a pinch of grime. I've eaten fresh mud burgers by the greatest cooks there are, and scrambled dregs and stinky bug eggs, and hornets started in the tar, and pails of snails and lizard tails and beetles by the jar. A beetle is improved by just a splash of vinegar. I often eat boiled slobbages, they've grown when served beside Miss Doodlebugs and curry slugs. And have you ever tried mosquitoes, toes, and wampus roast, most delicately fried? The only trouble is they disagree with my inside. I'm mad for crispy wasabi stings on a piece of buttered toast, and pickled spines of porcupines, and then a gorgeous roast of dragon's flesh, well hung not fresh. It costs $1 at most, and come to you in barrels if you ever buy it post. I crave the tasty tentacles of octopi for tea. I like hot dogs, I love hot frogs, and surely you'll agree. A plate of soy with Injun soy is a super recipe. I hardly need to mention that it's practically free. For dinner on my birthday, shall I tell you what I choose? Hot noodles made from poodles on a slice of Gordon hose. Oh, I said chose. What I chose. Hot noodles from poodles on a slice of garden hose. And I rather smell the jelly made of armadillo's toes. The jelly is delicious, but you have to hold your nose. Now come the centipede, declare the burden of my speech. These foods are very beyond compare. Some are right out of reach, but there's no doubt I'd go without a million plates of each for one small mite, one tiny bite of this fantastic peach. Everybody was feeling happy now. The sun was shining brightly out of a soft blue sky, and the day was calm. The giant peach, with sunlight glinting on its side, was like a massive golden ball sailing upon a silver sea. Bing. That's the end of chapter 18. Let's go to 19. Look, cried the centipede just as they were finishing their meal. Look at that funny thin black thing gliding through the water over there. What? Funny thin black thing. Okay, they all swung around to look. There are two. There are two of them, said Miss Spider. There are lots of them, said the ladybug.
What are they? Asked the earthworm, getting worried.
They must be some kind of fish, said the old green grasshoppers. Perhaps they have come along to say hello.
They are sharks, cried the earthworm. I'll bet you anything you like that they are sharks and they have come along to eat us up.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of sharks too. What? Absolutely not, the centipede said, but his voice seemed suddenly to have become a little shaky, and he wasn't laughing.
I am positive they are sharks, said the earthworm. I just know they are sharks.
And so, in actual fact, did everybody else, being, but they were too frightened to admit it. There was a short silence. They all peered down anxiously at the sharks, who were cruising slowly around and round the beach. Just just assuming they are sharks, the centipede said, there still can't possibly be any danger if we stay up here. But even as he spoke, one of those thin black fins suddenly changed direction and came cutting swiftly through the water right up to the side of the beach itself. The shark paused and stared up at the company with small, evil eyes. Go away, they shouted. Go away, you filthy beast. Slowly, almost lazily, the shark opened its mouth, which was big enough to have swallowed a perambulator, and made a lunge at the beach. They all watched aghast, and now, as though at a signal from the leader, all the other sharks came swimming in toward the peach, and they clustered around it and began to attack it furiously. There must have been 20 or 30 of them at least, all pushing and fighting and lashing their tails and churning the water into a froth. Panic and pandemonium broke out immediately on the top of the beach. Oh, we are finished now, cried Miss Spider, wringing her feet. They will eat us up the whole page, and then there'll be nothing left for us to stand on, and they'll start on us. She is right, shouted the ladybug. We are lost forever.
Oh, I don't want to be eaten, wailed the earthworm.
Oh, wait, there they are. Not looking good. Ding. Okay. But they will
But they will take me first of all because I am so fat and juicy and have no bones.
Is there nothing we can do? Asked the ladybug, appealing to James. Surely you can think of a way out of this. So they were all looking at James. Think, begged Miss Spider. Think, James, think.
Come on, said the centipede. Come on.
Oh, come on, said the centipede. Come on, James. There must be something we can do. Their eyes waited upon him, tense, anxious, pathetically hopeful. Oops. And there we go. Another picture. Okay. Chapter 20. There is something that I might believe we might try, said James Henry Trotter steadily. I'm not saying it'll work.
Tell us, cried the earthworm. Tell us quick.
We'll try anything you say, said the centipede, but hurry, hurry, hurry. Be quiet and let the boys speak, said the ladybug. Go on, James. They all moved a little closer to him. There was a longish pause. Go on, they cried frantically. Go on. And all the time while they were waiting, they could hear the sharks thrashing around the water below them. It was enough to make anyone frantic. Come on, James, Ladybug said, coaxing him. I'm afraid it's not good enough after all. James murmured, shaking his head. I'm terribly sorry. I forgot. We don't have any string. We need hundreds of yards of string to make this work.
What sort of string?
Asked the old green grasshopper sharply. Any sort, just so long as it's strong.
But, my dear boy, that's exactly what we do have. We've got all you want.
How? Where?
The silkworm, cried the old green grasshopper. Didn't you ever notice the silkworm? She's downstairs. She never moves. She lies there sleeping all day long, but we can easily wake her up and make her spin.
I thought they were going to ask spider.
Never mind. Okay.
And, here we go. And what about me, may I ask? Said Miss Spider. I can spin just as well as any silkworm. What's more, I can spin patterns. Can you make it out between you two? Asked James. As much as you want. And quickly. Of course, of course. And would it be strong? The strongest there is. It's just as thick as your finger. But why? What are we going to do? I'm going to lift this peach clear out of the water, James announced firmly.
You're mad, cried the earthworm.
It's our only chance.
The boy's crazy.
He's joking. Go on, James, the ladybug said gently. How are you going to do it? Skyhooks, I suppose, jeered the centipede. Seagulls, James answered calmly. The place is full of them. Look up there. They all looked up and saw a great mass of seagulls wheeling around and round in the sky. I'm going to take a long silk string, James went on, and I'm going to loop it on one end of it around a seagull's neck, and then I'm going to tie the other end to the stem of the peach. He pointed the peach stem, which was standing up like a short, thick mass in the middle of the deck. Then I'm going to get another seagull and do the same thing, and then on another and another. Ridiculous, they shouted. Absurd. Poppycock, balderdash, madness. And the old green grasshopper said, how can a, how can a few seagulls lift an enormous thing like this up in the air, and all of us as well? It will take hundreds, thousands. There is no shortage of seagulls, James answered. Look for yourself. We'll probably need 400, 500, 600, maybe even 1,000. I don't know. I shall simply go on, hooking them up to the stem until we have enough to lift us. They'll be bound to lift us in the end. It's like balloons. You give someone enough balloons to hold, I mean really enough, then up he goes. And a seagull has far more lifting power than a balloon. If only we have the time to do it. If only we're not sunk first by those awful sharks.
You're absolutely off your head, said the earthworm. How on earth do you propose? Oh, sorry, let me go back. I forgot to show you the picture.
And bing!
How on earth do you propose to get a loop of string around a seagull's neck? I suppose you're going to fly up there yourself and catch it.
The boy's daddy, said the centipede. Let him finish, said the ladybug. Go on, James. How would you do it? With bait. Bait? What sort of bait? With a worm. With a worm, of course. Seagulls love worms. Did you know that? And luckily for us, we have here the biggest, fattest, juiciest, pinkest earthworm in the world.
You can stop right there, the earthworm said sharply. That's quite enough.
Go on, the others said, beginning to grow interest. Go on. The seagulls have already spotted him, James continued. That's why there's so many of them circling around. But they daren't come down to get him while all the rest of us are standing here. So this is what.
Stop, cried the earthworm. Stop, stop, stop. I won't have it. I refuse.
Be quiet, said the centipede. Mind your own business.
I like that. My dear earthworm, you're going to be eaten anyway, so what difference does it make whether it's sharks or seagulls? I won't do it. Why don't we hear what the plan is first, said the old green grasshopper. I don't give a hoot what the plan is, cried the earthworm. I am not going to be pecked to death by a bunch of seagulls.
You will be a martyr, said the centipede. I shall respect you for the rest of my life. So will I, so will I, said Miss Spider, and your name will be in all the newspapers. Earthworm gives life to save friends. But he won't have to give his life, said James told them. Now listen to me. This is what we'll do. Chapter 21 is short. Okay. Why, it's absolutely brilliant, cried the old grasshopper when James had explained his plan. The boy's a genius, Centipede said. Now, I can keep my boots on after all.
Oh, I shall be pecked to death, wailed the poor earthworm.
Of course you won't.
I will, I know I will, and I won't even be able to see them coming at me because I have no eyes. James went over and put an arm gently around the earthworm's shoulder.
I won't let them touch you. He said, I promise I won't. But we've got to hurry. Look down there. There are more sharks than ever now. Around the piece, the water was boiling with them. There must have been 90 or 100 at least. And to the travelers up on top, it certainly seemed as though the piece was sinking lower and lower into the water. Action stations, James shouted. Jump to it. There's not a moment to lose. He was the captain now, and everyone knew it. They would do whatever he told them. All hands below, except Earthworm, he ordered. Yes, yes, they said eagerly as they scuttled into the tunnel entrance. Come on, let's hurry. And you, centipede, James shouted, hop downstairs and get that silkworm to work at once. Tell the spin as she's never spun before. Our lives depend on it. And the same applies to you, Miss Spider. Hurry on, Dan, start spinning. I still want to keep going, but I'm going to stop right now. Yeah, I'm going to stop.